Once again, this season of Let's Talk Elephants will be recorded from Hill 7 Studios in Henderson, Nevada, home to local rock band Sage Courageous. I used their song Split in Two to kick off this episode, so if you guys like their sound and are interested in hearing more, you can check them out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, really any major streaming platform that you use. So thank you again to the members of Sage Courageous for allowing me to borrow your studio to record the show. And please enjoy this first episode of Season 2 of Let's Talk Elephants. Hello, everyone. I would like to officially welcome you all to Season 2 of Let's Talk Elephants. I want to say thank you to everyone who is joining in for the first time and also to everyone who has been patient with me in getting the second season out. I was finishing college there for the last 6 months, so things got a bit hectic, and I wanted to make sure that the time and energy that I was putting into the show was thoughtful and insightful and not rushed and chaotic. So hopefully this season will be worth the wait for you all. I'm really excited about some of the guests I've been able to book for this season and some of the topics we'll be covering. With that being said, I would like to formally introduce my first guest of the season. His name is Trenton Lamprey. And I actually met Trent in an English class my sophomore year of high school. We both went to Coronado, which is known for having a substantial Mormon population. So there's your hint for the episode. Today he's going to be talking to us about his experience in the Church of Latter-day Saints, otherwise known as the Mormon Church. He no longer identifies as Mormon, but he did spend a significant amount of time as a member of the church. So today I'm going to have him share some of his experiences, what he took from it, why he left the church, and some of his current spiritual / religious beliefs. So before jumping into all that, I would like to remind everyone, not just for this episode, but for all episodes moving forward and all episodes ever really, that I cover a lot of different topics that have a lot of different perspectives, and there's just no way to totally and completely encompass every one of those perspectives on every issue. So I'm really just hitting the tip of the iceberg with some of these conversations, and I would like everyone to keep that in mind. Trent is going to be sharing one unique perspective that is totally relevant and completely important, but is by no means universally representative of the Mormon community or the Mormon church as a whole. So all I ask, as always, is that you enter this episode with an open mind and an open heart. So without further ado, Trent, can you please just tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe, where you're from, how long you've been separated from the church, or anything else you feel is relevant to sort of give people an idea of why you're qualified to talk about this issue or this topic.
I would love to. Hi, my name is Trenton Lomprey. I'm a 22-year-old Las Vegas native, and I was... for the point of this episode, I was raised Mormon. I have been separated from the church officially, not mentally and spiritually, but officially since the age of 17. My records still do lie within the church simply because I have not gone through with the measures required to actually remove your records. Maybe one day we'll get to that. Mm-hmm. But for the record, I was raised Mormon, baptized when I was 8, and personally secluded myself from the church at the age of 17. So 5 years ago. Okay.
So, what was your experience growing up? Are both your parents Mormon, and how Mormon were they?
So growing up, both before my parents split when I was 7 or 8, both of them were Mormon. And we were raised very strict Mormon,
Okay.
The only thing that wasn't strict was their mouths. They cursed like sailors. But other than that, every single church standard, no
exceptions.
No exceptions. Yeah. Everything had to be followed. Okay. So I would say, we were pretty in there.
Yeah.
Pretty in there.
Okay. Were you kind of thrown into it from the time you were a baby? Did they give you a choice on whether you wanted to be baptized, or was it kind of this is what we're going to do? This is our tradition, our religion?
It was kind of just, this is what we do. It was the only life I knew.
Right.
I didn't know the world outside of Mormonism. I wasn't able to experience that up until later in my teenage years. I also partially grew up in Moapa Valley, which is about
Okay.
an hour away from Las Vegas. And in Moapa, when I was there, it was a lot of Mormon people. So it was
Okay.
a
I
small
didn't know
town
that. Okay.
full of Mormons. No one real, and like out there is almost weird. And I'm speaking on personal experience here. It was almost weird if you weren't Mormon. It
Okay.
was like, oh, you're going places on Sundays. Oh, that's weird.
Oh, okay.
Oh, your parents have tattoos. Oh, that's interesting. It was
Mm.
very, very Mormon saturated
Okay.
there. So that's really all I knew up until later in my life.
Okay. And how is it compared to, so like I just know from my personal experience and people that I knew in high school, like Utah is kind
Mhm.
of similar to that. So there's certain cities in Utah that are like predominantly Mormon.
Yeah.
Would you say that it's similar to Moapa, or is it like
Yeah.
worse or
Yeah. I would say Moapa was just, it was very, very Mormon. It was actually, the Utah lines are not far from Moapa Valley. It's
Okay.
even closer to Utah than Las Vegas is.
Oh, okay.
It's still in Clark County, Nevada, but it's very close to Utah.
Mhm.
When we had to go into the city, we would go to actually, for the first chunk of me growing up, we would always go to St. George,
Mm.
which heavily Mormon.
Yes,
Heavily,
right.
heavily Mormon in St. George. So, I mean, yeah, really, it was just as if a mini Utah
Yeah,
city,
okay.
basically.
Okay, gotcha. So growing up, did you attend seminary and like follow everything religiously? No pun intended, but like literally like by the book, kind of like how you were
Um,
saying, except for the cursing thing? Or were there things that your parents were more lenient on?
To my mother's knowledge, I was following the church and everything up until the age of 16, but personally, no. I started kind of throughout middle school, I went through like a wave kind of
Mhm.
experience where I was hanging out with a lot of just not Mormon kids. I was hanging out with a bunch of the kids that like smoked,
Yeah.
partied. I like that was just like the crowd I kind of got
Mhm.
into.
Mhm.
So when I was home and on Sundays, I am, you know,
Super
chipper
Mormon.
Mormon.
Yeah.
I'm following all the rules, doing everything. But when I was at school and with my friends and my peers, it was more I wasn't really breaking any rules. Like I never smoked, never drank, never did anything like that until later teenage years.
Mhm.
But I definitely was like the fly on the wall in
Mhm.
places that Mormons technically weren't flies on the wall. You know, all of my friends were out. All my Mormon friends that I knew were out just at their houses or out at the dry lake beds, like just doing like whatever they can to entertain themselves while I was watching all of my friends do things that I'm being taught on Sundays are not right.
Right.
So it kind of like yes and no.
Okay. So was there ever a point where you felt like super connected to your religion? Like where you felt like, okay, I buy into what I'm being taught right now. I feel connected to God. I believe in the scriptures. Like, did you have a point where you were like, this is for me?
Um, Obviously, like throughout my childhood, I kind of just went with that. I never
Okay.
felt that. I just
Mm-hmm.
went with it because that's what everyone is telling me.
Right.
That's how everyone else supposedly feels around me, and that's what I'm being raised and taught to feel.
Mm-hmm.
But once I was in middle school and I actually started like realizing that there's life outside of the Mormon church, um, I would say I kind of like I guess in sixth grade and in seventh grade, like what throughout that wave process,
Mm-hmm.
there would be points when I was very close to the Mormon church and
Okay.
I was like, yes, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there is something here.
Right.
Um,
Why do you think that was? Like, was there something what made you feel connected to your religion at those moments? Do you think it was something particular? Were you just kind of
it
reaching for
was
anything or?
reaching for anything for
Okay.
sure. It was because I realized in sixth grade via Tumblr.
Love Tumblr.
Gotta love the
Seventh grade for me. Yeah.
early 2010s of Tumblr.
Yes.
I had come to the realization, at the time at least, that I was bisexual.
Okay.
At the time.
Yeah.
In middle school. So that was in 6th grade. And with that, obviously, being Mormon, you're told that's a no-no. That's absolutely not cool. And if you are bi, like, you better lean that other way, you know?
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of where the wave, whenever I was close to the church, it was because I was trying with everything to be close to the church. Because I was literally, one day I wasn't, but the next day I was diving in, just like, oh my gosh, because I don't want to be, you know, one of the outcasts. I don't want to be ostracized. I don't want the consequences that they're promising will come my way.
Right.
So
Yes.
just by being scared, I dove in.
It was fear.
Yeah, it was a lot of fear-based diving in.
Okay.
And I constantly just told myself,
mm-hmm.
yeah, this is it. I didn't really feel like that. And
Yeah.
in fact, I kind of felt the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of things that I was constantly like, that doesn't sound right.
Right.
I don't think that's right. I would feel a certain way while in Sunday school, and I'm like, that's not it.
Did you ever speak up or say anything, like challenge it? Or?
I challenged it a lot. I would ask a lot of very, very, like, at Sunday school and on Sundays, and also Mormons, most wards and stakes have what's called mutual, mm-hmm. which is kind of on Wednesdays. It's like a fun youth thing, but it's to dive more into the church.
Yeah.
And so I would, like, on those days, I would kind of, I don't know, just
like push the buttons a little bit.
Yeah, kind of just push the buttons.
Yeah.
I would ask questions on both those days and on Sundays that really kind of just made no sense.
Yeah.
But I was like, I want an answer.
Yeah.
Like,
you're shaking the boat.
Exactly. Like, no
How
one's
was that
asking
received?
This.
Like, good, bad? Like, did you like the answers you got, or?
Yes, and never really, actually.
Yeah.
A lot of times it was just repeating of the simple basics.
Okay.
And other times it was, well, you shouldn't be questioning your faith.
So it was kind of like they made you feel guilty for asking
Kind
the
of,
questions.
yes.
Okay.
So not always. It wasn't always a you shouldn't question your faith, but it was definitely well, the same basic answer applies here, or the latter. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't be questioning your faith.
Okay.
So that's when I really, and I kind of had that realization at the age of 14, I would say.
Okay.
And that's when I was like, what is up here?
Right.
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know?
Do you have any siblings, and are they Mormon still, or?
I do. I am actually the baby of 5.
Oh, okay.
Baby of 5, Mormon families.
Mm-hmm.
And, no, the oldest, she is Mormon. She's raising her kids Mormon, but she also is kind of doing her own thing. She's kind of turned it into this, like, how she perceives it and how she wants it to be for her and her family.
Which I've seen a lot of that actually in my friends that are Mormon. It's, to be fair, it's probably because, I'll be honest with my bias here. If there's someone that is super devoutly anything, whether mm-hmm. it's religious, a political party, anything extreme, mm-hmm. I struggle to build friendships and relationships and connections with them. So the Mormon people that I am still in contact with and friends with, that's kind of their take on it too. You know what I mean? So I grew up, I don't know if I've told you, but I grew up Catholic. So I went to I
feel like I knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not shy about it. I've mentioned it multiple times mm-hmm. on like whatever social media. But I went to Catholic school from 3rd grade to 8th grade. Then I went to Coronado, but I was still like a part of my church.
Okay.
And I got confirmed because, in Catholicism you have, gosh, I don't even fucking remember what they're called. It's like sacraments. I want to say it's like 7 sacraments or something like that. Oh. And so you have baptism when you're young, but then you have, I'm sure there's probably some kind of Mormon equivalent. Maybe like a mission or something would be the equivalent of like confirmation in Catholic religion, because that's basically like you're signing up for it for life. Like you're confirming that you believe in your faith, which you do at 17. Yeah, go ahead.
That's actually baptism.
For you guys.
For the Mormons
Okay.
at the age of 8.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, like, how do you consent to that? So the thing with, I think the difference between us in terms of baptism and confirmation is baptism is like you're being blessed by God as an infant, or like you're being welcomed into the faith, introduced into the faith. And then confirmation is kind of like, okay, now that you've seen all this, because you can't do it until you hit a certain age.
Yeah.
So now that you've seen all this, you've seen your faith, this is you saying, I want to be a part of this. I want to make this a part of my like routine for my life. Yeah. So what is the mission like compared to something like that? That you have to be baptized first, obviously, to go on before you go on your mission.
So a mission is where, for a guy, you are either 18 for a guy or 19 for a girl, and you serve a mission. And for men, it's 2 years long. For girls, it's a year and a half, 18 months.
Why is that different? Do you know? Like, why is it shorter for women?
Kind of what it's always taught that the women aren't forced to go on missions, and that's why it's shorter, is because it's more of the woman wants to serve their God by going on a mission, while the men kind of have no choice. Men have to go on a mission. It's like,
when you say have to, is it like you get excommunicated if you don't?
You don't get excommunicated. You definitely get looked down upon.
Right. It's like a stigma.
There's a stigma, and it's just, that's it though. You're taught all throughout your teens.
You're
when
like
you're
preparing
18,
for that.
You're gonna go on a mission.
Okay.
You are going to go on a mission when you are 18, and that is that.
So is that something that, I mean, I guess it's kind of hard to answer this question because all you have is your personal experience. But do you think that is based on like your personal experience here in Vegas with your church, your ward, or do you think that's more of like a common theme in the Mormon religion as a whole? Like you are going on a mission as a male when you turn 18.
I personally feel as if that's kind of just the all around.
Okay. So other people you've talked to, you feel like they also feel that way?
Oh, yeah. Well, like growing up, even before I moved back to Las Vegas and was in Vegas full time, when I was even back in Moapa, we were still taught, like, as kids. There's a hymn, I don't even know what it is, but it's like, I'm gonna grow up and be on a mission, or like, really? I don't know how it goes anymore, but like, that's a thing. Yeah. So it's kind of all, all your life as a man. Like when you're 12, you become a deacon. When you're 14, you become a teacher. 16, become a priest. Once you graduate high school, sayonara, you're going away for 2 years. Right. That's kind of the fate that you're told and presented.
Okay, yeah.
And
that's one thing that's really unique to me about like the Mormon religion. I don't see that in other religions, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I'll be completely honest with everybody in my personal opinion on this. I just feel like spirituality and religion as a whole is something that is very unique. It's very personal. It's very my belief now with religion is that we have a direct contact to God if we want it, if there's a God, whatever it is. I am that. I am a piece of whatever that is. So I don't need all this extra shit, these extra people telling me that this is how God is going to love you. This is how you're going to get to heaven. This is what you need to do to be accepted. Like, in my opinion, you're a person. You're a human. You're the same as me. We're both pieces of this God. Why would you have more information than me on this person? You know what I mean? On this thing.
I agree. I view it the exact same way. Just also through one thing that Mormons do believe in, and I do believe in it just for everybody. Because again, we are all a piece of that creator. Whatever is up there at the top, we are a piece of it. And they have a piece of us. And ever since I was about 16, that's when I really learned that for myself personally, that it really is between me and that one person.
Yeah.
Just because I don't want to cut anything by telling a story. I don't want to like cut too forward in your questions.
Yeah, no, go ahead,
but
go ahead.
When I was 16 and when I was 15 actually. I was 15 and I was really struggling just with being bi, quote unquote,
right.
and being a part of the church. One night, and I used to, so come freshman year, when it was really in my face that like, I might be gay.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I might be gay. I every single night would pray, like, please God, don't let me be gay. Like, whatever you do, like, let me lean to the other side of bisexuality, please. Like, whatever it is, just let me have that one thing. Like, you can give me hell, but like, don't let me be gay. Which is really sad thinking about it. But
so sad.
That all stopped because at one point I was 15 and I kid you not, I was laying in bed one night, I'm asleep. I'm like dead asleep. I didn't have a dream of any sorts. I didn't, like, nothing really happened to cause me to literally, I flung forward, like sitting up in my sleep, like automatically awake. I'm sweating. I'm gasping for breath. Like literally, I'm like, it's at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm like 15. I'm like, and all I could feel though was, you're okay. Yeah. You're gonna be okay. Whatever you do, you're gonna be okay. Don't stress about it. You're gonna be okay. Yeah. And so I kind of had that feeling for, I want to say like 5-10 minutes. Fell back asleep. Woke up the next morning and was like, that was so weird and so just interesting. But literally that day, I had such a different outlook.
Yeah.
Just on me, on what I'm learning my truth is.
Right.
I had this, I wasn't that confident, but I had like a little bit more confidence for some reason. I like just felt, from that evening, I just felt a lot better. Yeah. And then I want to say it was like within a week or two of that, in seminary class, we're having a discussion and lesson on marriage. Yeah. In seminary class, I was like, oh, I'm gay. Yeah. Like, oh, I am not straight, not bi, I am gay, and I want nothing to do with this. But like, I had that realization, but it was it was almost funny. It was like
you weren't stressed about it.
I wasn't stressed about it. It like turned from, oh my God, please don't let this happen. Don't let this happen, to it's happening. Yeah. Who cares?
It's here. It's
all right.
Done. Yeah.
I'll deal with this.
Yeah. That is so crazy. See, for me, that is what it's about. It's like those moments where it's like, what the fuck was that? Yeah. Because to me, I'm not religious anymore. You know, I grew up and it was probably similar with you, you know, where I went to Catholic school. You know, Catholic school is basically like seminary every single day. Like, you take religion, you pray in the morning, you pray before you go to lunch, you have to go to mass on Fridays, you wear a uniform, like it's like that basically every single day. So you learn about, you know, the religion, about how to practice. And I was going through the motions, kind of. It wasn't like I actually fully believed. I remember I had a conversation with my dad when I was like 9 years old, because I had only been in Catholic school for like a year. Yeah. And I remember we had to get, you know, and when you're Catholic, you get your communion, which is one of the sacraments. You get communion, your first communion, when you're in like first or second grade. And it's basically you eat the bread and you drink the wine, because I know you guys take communion in Mormon church, right? Kind of.
It's a weekly sacrament. Okay. Where you take a piece of bread and you take like an ounce of water.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
So basically.
Right. So we call it like the Eucharist. Okay. And it's like they go through a big process every time you're in mass where they're like blessing the bread. They're mimicking like the Last Supper. Got it. And we were taught like this, they say like, this is the body of Christ and this is the blood of Christ. And I remember I told my dad, I'm like, I don't believe that I'm eating Jesus and drinking Jesus. Like, I don't am I supposed to believe that? Because I'm like, I don't believe that. Like, I don't believe that's what's happening. Like, it's just a guy up here with bread and wine that said some words.
Totally.
And now I'm eating Jesus. You know what I mean? So I didn't believe it. And actually, there's like a really interesting book that I just read about that called The Immortality Key. And it's about like what the Eucharist really was. And it's like this guy that did like a 12-year study, like chemistry, archaeology, like history. And basically his theory is that Jesus did drugs and the original Eucharist was psychedelics. So
I would love to read this book.
It's kind of dry just because there's a lot of like science and like technicalities in it, but it's the concept is really interesting because it's about entheogens and how that connects us to something bigger. So yeah, we'll get another episode, another time. Too much tangent there. So yeah, because I've had some experiences where I'm like, what was that? You know what I mean? So you said that, you know, basically that point in your life, like where you were like, hey, this isn't for me anymore, was that like that one night, and then you were in seminary, and then you were kind of like, I know for sure.
Yeah, it was kind of, I think, a lot leading up to that.
It was like gradual too?
All through my freshman year. Just being in high school and like having all these other influences and just all of that. I already was kind of on the like
on the
interesting,
fence
on the fence. And for that reason, I actually hung out with like a lot of Mormons. Kind of just as like a safety belt type situation where like, well, no matter what, like, my friends are all Mormon.
Yeah.
They're all doing good. I, like, kind of was just, like, no matter what, I can fall into that category.
Yeah.
Just because that's who I'm, for the most part, surrounding myself with.
Mm-hmm.
But just wasn't necessarily true. But that night, and then kind of having that realization in seminary, once I had that realization in seminary, I definitely was like, I'm kind of not into this.
Yeah.
I really had just a change of heart where I was just like, I don't really want to dive into this.
Yeah.
I've tried. I'm kind of over this.
Yeah.
I like kind of just got this like, this isn't it for me.
Right.
That's not it for me.
And in that book that I was mentioning to you, they have a name for, like, I guess what you would call us now, and we'll talk about, like, where you're at spiritually now later on. But they call, like, for me personally, they would call me, like, spiritual but not religious. And that population's becoming bigger and bigger and bigger.
I would say I'm definitely a part of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of like, you know, basically what had happened with me is I got confirmed, and I kind of was just, you know, once I left Catholic school, it was kind of like I was just disconnected from everything that I had been so immersed in. So that's one area that it is different from, you know, like the Mormon church, is because it's not consistent like that. Like if I had gone to Gorman, it'd be different. You know what I mean? Because so much of like the Catholic schools are like feeder schools, so Gorman, you know. So a lot of people that I went to St. Viator with went to Gorman.
Got it.
But you know, had I gone to Gorman, it would have been different. But once I was in high school, kind of similar, like I was just around it was like a culture shock.
Yeah.
Like I was like, people are having sex right now.
Yeah,
like
seriously.
I haven't even kissed anybody. Like I'm so I felt like judgmental of them almost because I was scared. I was like, wait, no, you're not supposed to be doing that, because if you're doing that means I'm supposed to be doing it, and like that scares me, and I don't want to do that because I was taught I'm not supposed to. I felt behind. And then when I started getting like more comfortable with that stuff, I kind of was just, I didn't pray as much. I didn't go to church as much. And then I got to college, and then I started asking really hard questions.
Yeah.
Like, I took a class my freshman year of high school with a teacher that I'm still very close with now.
Wait, freshman year of high school or college?
Of college. What were you going to say?
Oh, no, you just said freshman of high school.
Freshman year of college. Freshman year of college, yes. Freshman year of college, I had taken like this spirituality class. It wasn't really a spirituality class, but this teacher always adds some element of spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like always very interesting. And she started like playing all these videos about like DNA and about, what if people who are schizophrenic, like maybe they're just seeing something different, like seeing a different reality, and like started asking all these really tough questions. And I was like, well, fuck. Now I'm over here thinking about all this stuff.
Yeah.
And that was also the year that Route 91 had happened. Route 91 had just happened.
Yeah.
And that really fucked me up because I was like, why does this stuff happen?
Yeah.
Why do such awful things happen to innocent ass people?
Yep.
Like they just didn't deserve it. And now like there's people's lives that are ruined. And I started like, I was angry. I was bitter.
Yeah.
So I got to this point where I was like borderline atheist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like super skeptical, super cynical, very pessimistic.
Yeah.
And I was also just like in a dark place in my life, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Like college was rough. College put me through a mental marathon in a lot of ways. But so I kind of was like standoffish with anything spiritual or religious. I was kind of just like, if there is something, I don't fucking care at this point because look at everyone around me that is like hurting. Like obviously if there's something up, I just don't want a part of it. Leave me alone. I was very salty,
Totally.
And then I had one of those experiences.
Yeah.
Where I was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, what just happened?
And I've never shared it with anybody I've shared it with people that are close to me, but I've never done it, I've never shared it on like a public platform just because it's something, it was so intense for me. Yeah. It was like, and I'm not going to get into a lot of details about it. I think I've mentioned it a few times before, like briefly. Mm-hmm. But I basically, I was in this place where I was borderline atheist. Mm-hmm. And then one day I just wake up and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, now I don't know what to do or what to think or what to believe. And it really fucked me up. I was asleep and I had it was when I was sleeping, so that's one thing that was like I noticed it was consistent between us. But I had like this really strange lucid dream, I guess you could call it. It doesn't feel like a dream to me. Like it feels like the version of me you're talking to right now was there.
Yeah.
And it had to do with Kobe Bryant.
Oh, interesting.
And it's really weird because I didn't, I grew up. Like, my team was the Lakers, and my brother played basketball. Yeah. My boyfriend plays basketball. So, like, he was like an influence in my life. Yeah. And I was sad when he passed away. Mm-hmm. But, and we were all sad, like, especially my boyfriend and my brother, because that was, like, their idol. You know what I mean? And I was sad, too. And then I kind of, like, started to process it, and I was like, oh, that's unfortunate. You know what I mean? Like, that's really sad. Like, I feel bad for my brother and my boyfriend. And then like a week and a half after he passed is when I had this weird experience. Yeah. And I woke up from it and I was like, ugh. Yeah. I was like, I don't even, like, I remember, so I won't get into all the details, but the one moment where I realized like something was happening, I was basically, like, I was looking at Kobe Bryant in this place wherever I was. It's really hard to explain, like, settings in your dream.
Oh, very.
Yeah. It's like, what? But he was, like, laying down on this bed, and he was passed away. He was dead. And I remember, like, sitting there thinking, like, why am I here? Like, why, out of everybody in the whole fucking universe that could be sitting here right now, why am I sitting here in this room with Kobe Bryant? Yeah. And then I was with some random dream people, just like fucking like video game avatars that are walking around in your dream, And then everyone left and it was just me and Kobe Bryant. And I remember I was standing at the end of this bed, like looking at him, and I remember thinking like I just really wish that you weren't gone right now. Like, I would give anything right now for you to not be in this position and be, like, to be alive again. You know what I mean? And then I saw, like, his chest go like this on the bed, like a resuscitation. Yeah. And I was like, it was too much for me in the dream.
Mm-hmm.
I'd, like, passed out in my dream. Like, I went, like, double unconscious. Like, literally, my eyes rolled back into my head, and I was like, there's no way that just fucking happened, and I hit the ground, and I, like, blacked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then I woke back up in the same room, like, the same, because usually when shit like that happens in your dreams, you switch. Like, you go to the next setting or the...
Yeah.
I don't know
or
what
you
everyone...
wake up.
Or you wake up.
Like
yes,
you
I
simply, like, wake up at that point.
Yeah. I don't know what everyone else's fucking dreams are like, but mine are intense, okay? So I woke up. This is the most intense experience I've ever had. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I woke up, and I was laying in a different part of that place, and I was looking at where I was just standing.
Yeah.
And he was alive now. He was, like, up and alive, and, like, doctors were checking him, and I remember he, like, looked physically, like, big compared to, like, the women that were, like, helping him and, like, checking his vitals and everything. And as soon as I opened my eyes and I saw that he was alive, I got up and I was like, I know that I'm dreaming now. I was like, I know that this isn't real.
So then it was a lucid
then
dream.
It was
so
a lucid
you were fully
dream. Then I was
like,
fully engaged in my dream. That's why it feels like I was here. And I've never had something that intense before.
Yeah.
And I walked up, and I remember I was talking to him, and I was like, I'm so confused. I was like, I just saw him laying on the bed, like, laying here, like, not alive.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, he still has his heart. So that's what matters. And it's like, you know, that's like a fucking metaphor, deep-ass shit.
That's a very deep metaphor.
Yeah, and he just looked at me and was, like, nodding his head, like, yeah, like, I still have my heart. And then I, like, was starting to get overwhelmed, and I was like, okay. I looked at him, and I was like, listen. I was like, I know that this isn't real. Like, I know that, like, none of this is actually, like, happening. Mm-hmm. But, like, where I'm from, like, you're not alive. Like, you're dead where I'm from. So I don't want to go back there and have to deal with this.
Yeah. And
I'm, like, having this conversation with him, and I just started to feel like, okay, well, my brain's working now, and I can feel like that I'm about to wake up. Mm-hmm. And I woke up, and I was fucked up. Like, my eyes were puffy, like I had been crying. You know what I mean? And I, like, went up to go pee in the middle. Like, it wasn't even the middle of the night. It was, like, 8 a.m. Mm-hmm. And my family was, like, this was before COVID, so they were, like, getting ready to go to school and stuff. And then, like, I went back and laid back down, and then I had another dream about him, and it was, like, a bowling alley, and everything was, like, purple, like, LED lights. Mm-hmm. And I saw him with his family, like, his wife and his daughters, and he was, like, showing his little one, like, his little daughter how to bowl. And I walked up, and I just, like, ran up and, like, hugged him. Mm-hmm. And I was, like, crying. And he just, like, kissed me on the cheek, and then I woke up. And I was absolutely fucking destroyed when I woke up. Yeah. And it's really hard to, like, explain to someone who hasn't experienced something that intense, because it's easy for people to just dismiss it as, like, a dream or, like,
that's an interesting dream. Oh, that's crazy that happened.
But you just know.
Dreams have meaning.
Yes.
Dreams have meaning.
For sure.
Anything your brain does has a meaning. Yes, exactly.
So I just, after that, that's why, you know, anyone who follows me on social media, you know, or sees what I post, like, that is why, you know, I have this tattoo on my ankle, why I constantly am posting about Kobe Bryant, or, you know, I woke up that morning and I felt like my family member had died. I woke up and I felt like this person knew everything about me, and I knew everything about him. Mm-hmm. And I literally, like, mourned this death for like weeks and months. Like, I felt depressed. I had like days where, you know, like when the Michael Jordan documentary came out, and I actually flew out to LA like for his memorial, and I went, and the morning that he passed away in the helicopter, before he had gotten on the helicopter, he went to church because he was Catholic too. Yeah. And they, you know, they were his pastor and everything, like, they were very public about his church, and his pastor spoke and everything. So I went to his church, and this was like the first time I'd been in a Catholic church in a long time. And there's in the Catholic church, there's like these temples. It's like a separate little room in the church where you can go to pray privately. And, like, the pastor had said, like, I had just seen him coming out of the temple, like, hours before he had went.
This happened.
Yeah. So I went and I sat in the temple,
Mm-hmm.
and I just fucking, like...
Lost it.
Yeah, it's, like, such an intense experience. Like, it's one of the last places that he was before he passed away, and, like... I just don't have words to explain to people who haven't experienced, like, that's the closest thing to spirituality or to God that I had been in such a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you said that experience, I was like, oh my God. Like, this is like a common thing. Like, this is how God comes to us.
No, yeah, in some weird,
in our sleep, in our subconscious. Like, I've seen all this shit about, like, how little of our brain we actually use.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So it's interesting to see when it's actually in
yes.
use.
So, sorry, a little tangent there. Sorry, we're going to come back to Mormonism now.
We'll reel her back.
So, back to the LDS. What you know, because we've kind of talked about, like, your sexuality and stuff and about how that was hard for you to reconcile, like, your sexuality and the church. What else, like, specifically about the church's teachings was hard for you to connect with?
There was a lot, I feel like. I mean, sexuality aside, you know, I really did not understand, like, the word of wisdom. I did not understand it. I didn't, which is, you know, the age-old tale of, oh, Mormons can't drink soda, or Mormons can't have coffee.
Right.
Well, I mean, they can have soda. Fun fact. But how they can't have coffee and all of that. That's all in the word of wisdom, which basically is just explaining how you should treat your body here on earth. And I just didn't really agree with a lot of things that were in that. I didn't agree with just the history of the Mormon church, the non-Mormon version of the story.
Yeah.
Because growing up, you're told that, you know, Joseph Smith is like this amazing man who really truly is a prophet and has never done anything wrong. And then you, like, look back at literal historical records that say very otherwise
about him.
And so, like, that really didn't sit right with me. And there was just a lot. I would definitely say it all rooted to sexuality.
Okay, that's, like, the big thing.
That was definitely the big thing, because then, too, with sexuality, they always were like, oh, well, yeah, it's wrong to be gay, but if you are gay, that's okay. You can be gay, you just can't live your life like that. You can't live a gay lifestyle.
So you can't get married. You can't, like, consummate your relationship.
You can't have a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, if
you
you're
have to
gay,
repress it.
If you're gay, you're going to be celibate for the rest of your life.
And that is actually taught. Like,
yes.
They verbalize that.
They don't verbalize that until the only things they really verbalized ever to me, and this, again, in my personal experience, they verbalized to me with people watching. So, meaning my peers in Sunday school and seminary, they just said gay is not okay. But behind the scenes, once you are gay, and once, you know, you talk to someone about it, I never talked to my bishop about it.
Did you come out, like, formally?
I came out. I came out to my mom.
Okay.
And my sister on the same night.
How did they receive that? Like, were you nervous about being rejected by the church or by peers, by family?
The most I was ever nervous about was being rejected by my family. Peers didn't really give a crap about. I was, not to dive into another topic, but I was very heavily bullied from the age of, like, 5. Like, literally from a young age. Yeah. So I was like, I really don't care about that. Because also via the internet, I could see that I am accepted somewhere.
Right.
That there is a place for me somewhere. It may not have been all the other places I've been in my life so far, but there is somewhere. So I didn't really care about the peers I lost. The church, I felt out of place already. I didn't want to be there, you know? I don't know if we're going to dive into that even more, but the church caused a lot of mental and emotional problems for me. So I was like, I really could not care less. It was more just when I came out, I was freaking out about my mom kicking me out. I was losing it, like freaking out. So she didn't, thankfully.
Yeah.
But to give a background of how that basically went was my mom went on a vacation one weekend. At the beginning of the weekend, because I just turned 16. My birthday was November 10th, and I came out to her November 16th of 2014. So in between that time, I don't know the exact date, but right before she went on her vacation, which she got back from on the 16th, I was offered a job at a hair salon. And I really wanted to work at a hair salon. I thought that would have been dope, you know? Like, that's dope. And I mean, long story short, I did end up working at it. But when I first presented the idea to my mom, she was like, oh, no, you are not working at a hair salon. And I was like, why not? Like, what the heck? And she was like, well, people are officially going to think you're gay if you do that.
So she was worried about people knowing that her son was gay.
Yes.
And like the image and the stigma.
Very.
Okay.
Very. Me and my mom have come a very long way.
Okay,
I love my
good.
mother.
Good.
She is awesome. She has had a lot of openings of heart. So I don't want anything I say to stick onto her.
Poorly, yes. We all change.
Exactly. We all change. This is just how she knew how to respond then.
Yeah.
So she was like, oh, absolutely not. People are going to think you're gay. And so I was like, oh. And like that took me aback because I was just like, little do you know.
Right.
Which I mean, not little. Everyone knew.
They were like assuming.
Everyone assumed that I was gay.
Okay.
My mom was just like the only one in denial about it.
Okay. What about your dad? Your dad knew?
He knew, just never talked about it.
Okay.
I came out to my dad months after. I came out to my dad actually after I had publicly come out.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny because he took it the best of anybody.
Oh, nice. Well, that's good.
He didn't really care. But with my mom, she then went on her trip literally that day, and I spent all weekend literally just watching YouTube videos, looking up on Tumblr, like watching questions and answers of like basically like how to come out to religious parents and just how to handle the situation. And I found a lot of good information, didn't use any of it.
Nice.
Because then she got home, and when she came home, by that point, I was like, I need to tell her. Like, I literally just need to tell her. Straight up, because I want to live my life.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to say no to anything because of a religion or how people are going to perceive me. I really don't care to live like that. And so I was like, I have to tell my mom. I have to. So I called my sister up first, and I'm like bawling my eyes out. Because then before this, the only person I had ever told anything about was actually one of my dear friends, George.
Oh, George, okay.
Who I'm still best friends with to this day.
That.
Love George, but I came out to him about a couple months beforehand, and he and one more friend, my other best friend at the time, were the only people that knew. So then I came out to my sister, crying on the phone, and she's like, oh my gosh, you're literally fine. She showed me a lot of love, and she was like, when do you want to talk to mom about this? And I like, are you going to talk to mom about this? And I was like, yes. And she was like, okay, when do you want to, you know? And I was like, tonight. And she was like, what?
Oh, like we're doing it now.
And so she lived way over in Summerlin. So like the more northwest side of town. We lived all the way in Anthem, which was the southest end of town. She got there in literally like 20 minutes. She zoomed.
Yeah.
She gets there. We march on in together. And my mom's like, oh, hey, Lo, like, how are you? And Lauren was like, we need to talk. And so it then just, the mic was on me. I bawled my eyes out. It was terrifying. I came out to her, and a lot, from that point on, a lot was said and done. With and without the aid of the Mormon religion. The next month, I would say, from that point to actually the next 2 months, I would say, because that was in the middle of November, and it carried, I would say, till the very beginning of the next year, till January. It was very interesting.
Yeah.
Just because.
Turbulent.
Very turbulent.
Yeah.
One of the things, to bring up the issue of image again, was one of the first things my mom said to me was, okay, we're not going to tell anyone about this. No one is allowed to know about this.
Which is not
and I was
validating
like,
at all.
no.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
You're embarrassed of me, basically.
Yeah. So I was like, okay. And then she told the bishop the day after, which then just caused a lot of problems.
Understandably.
Both between me and my mom, me and my bishop, me and the church as a whole.
Yeah.
It just caused a whole lot of problems. And so it just then snowballed, and we kind of figured it out. But that kind of was also a solidification of how I felt, especially towards the church, because this is where the what they told me in private versus what they told me in seminary and in Sunday school comes to play, where they offered me up to this thing called Lds Voices of Hope, which was a website and I think just like a service of some sort. I didn't really look fully into it. I really didn't care to.
Yeah,
I was like, because by this point I had mentally clocked out. I was like
of the church.
Of the church.
Yeah, well, because you had clocked out when you realized.
I clocked out when I realized I was gay.
Yeah.
And when I was 15. So now I'm 16, and I'm just trying to. I want to embrace it at this point because it's something that everyone has frowned upon me literally my entire life.
Yeah.
Like at home, at church, at school, you name the place, I was shamed for being me my entire life. So I was just like, I want to own it. Like, I don't care because I really don't care. At this point. And so a lot of just obstacles kept coming up in that. And so they tried to present to me this Voices of Hope program where, I could have met with actually one of them. I didn't, because I didn't care to. One of like the speakers it.
I was gonna ask, why were you still if you mentally clocked out, what part of you was still like, okay, I'll go and talk to the bishop about this, or were you doing it because your mom?
I was forced to.
Okay, you were forced to.
I simply had no choice.
Okay.
Every Sunday, I don't want to go to church. I'm not going to church. You're going to church.
Okay.
I don't want to go to seminary. I'm not going to seminary. You're going to seminary.
Okay.
I don't want to go to this bishop interview. I really don't care to. I don't want to deal with this. No, you're going.
Okay.
I physically had no choice.
Okay.
So I just then kept dealing with all these turbulent things, and the next turbulent thing was that Voices of Hope, where they told my mom, because I refused to speak also on it to anyone that was Mormon. My bishop, me and him had an interview a few weeks after he talked to my mom about me coming out. The entire time he kept asking, I know there's something you want to tell me. What is it? Nothing. I just kept saying nothing. Yeah. There's nothing I want to talk to you about. Yeah. And I don't want to be here. And he was like, you don't want to be here because there's something that you're not willing to discuss. And I was like, no, I don't want to be here because I don't want to be here. Yeah. I'm over this. Yeah. I am simply over this. Yeah. And then he kind of would not take that as an answer. And so it kind of got into a heated conversation where he just was like, I know there's something you want to tell me. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, there's nothing. Yeah. You're not going to get anything out of me. Right. Like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't believe in this. This is not for me. End of the story. Right. And he said he never did this. Whatever. He did. He kind of then throws a jab at my relationship with my dad. Because me and my dad had a very strong relationship, just because my dad, once the divorce happened when I was 7 or 8, my dad left the church. Okay. So I could kind of...
So your dad has not been Mormon for a while?
No, for over a decade.
Did they both start Mormon? Or was one of them Mormon and the other one was like, okay, I'll be Mormon?
My mom was Mormon. My dad became Mormon before my mom.
Okay. I've seen that happen a lot, actually.
Yeah, that happened, especially in Vegas.
Yeah.
That happens a lot. But I don't know about anymore, but that has happened a lot.
Yeah.
But so I kind of always, though, like my dad has always kind of just been my best friend, even though he was the last person I came out to. In every other aspect, though, because he just understood what it was like to feel robbed by the one community, you know?
Right.
And so me and him just always bonded with that. And so my bishop kind of gave a dig at my dad. I was like, oh, screw this. I was like, I'm leaving. And he was like, can we say a prayer then? And I was like, nope, I'm out. Like, I am done with this.
Read the room.
Read the room. I'm done. I'm so over this. So I kind of storm out of there.
It's comical.
And then, you know, it was just really interesting from that point on. And then it kind of just became because I also started going to therapy.
Okay.
With a Mormon therapist, of course.
Gotta
love it. But one thing that I really appreciate, especially at the beginning, because at the end he kind of slipped some Mormon stuff on me, and that's why it was the end.
Yeah.
But at the beginning, it was awesome, and he really stuck up for me, and it was just a lot of talks of me going to him and him and he was a seminary teacher, and him kind of being like, as a therapist, like, the Mormon church is doing you wrong. Like, you literally cannot be going. Because basically, I'm not diagnosed with PTSD by any means of the imagination. Yeah. But he told me that what I'm showing is basically just constant triggers of PTSD.
Okay.
Constant triggers. With just because I'm being forced to go to church, forced to go to seminary. And I was very anxious. I had not a lot of health problems, but like I got stomach ulcers due to anxiety and stress, and just a lot of and I was very, depending on the day, like couldn't get out of bed. So just stuff like that. And he was like, yeah, no, you are not going to be going to seminary anymore. He wanted to get it to where I wasn't going to seminary, mutual, or church at all. He was like, you need to be separated. Like, for your mental health, for literally your life, you need to be separated. Yeah. My mom didn't like that answer. She was like, we'll cut seminary, but he has to go to mutual on Wednesdays and he has to go to church on Sundays. And I was like, okay, I can.
At least it's something.
I can try with that.
Yeah.
And then so that was basically just a couple months after I had come out at that point. And by this point, it's February of like 2015. So I'm no longer really going to seminary at all. The last time I literally walked into seminary was so douchey, first of all, because it was like right before my talk with because we like scheduled a talk where my sister was going to come in and be the mediator between me and my mom, so that we can make sure that peacefully I'm no longer going to seminary. Okay. So I knew this talk with my therapist was coming, so I showed up to seminary like 10 minutes late. I looked good, first of all. I showed up to seminary like 10 minutes late. I sat there. I didn't talk to anyone. I just looked around, and everyone was looking at me, and I'm just looking around like, what? Because also at this point, I'm like starting to come out to my friend, like a couple of my friends, keeping it very still like no one knows, keep it quiet. But I'm like just getting that confidence, you know? And so I showed up 10 minutes late, and I walked out like 10 minutes later. Yeah. So I showed up late, left early. That was the last time I ever went to seminary. And then it kind of just stopped there with the seminary entirely. I had a weird run-in the next year with one of the leaders of seminary who like asked me in front of all my friends at a restaurant to like come back to seminary. That was really weird, but it happened. But the next thing that was really like because again, at this point, I'm mentally clocked out. Yeah, right. I want nothing to really do with this place. I'm in my own world. Yeah. That June in 2015 was when all 50 states made it legal for same-sex marriage. Mm-hmm. that also was when I came out, like, officially
Yeah.
to, like, everybody.
Yeah.
Because
We're like, fuck it. We're on a high note here.
not really. Because I came out actually a few weeks before that.
Before it. Okay.
Good
timing then.
Do you? But I don't know if it was my timing. Do you remember that Coronado Roast Twitter account?
Oh God, yes.
So I know who made it, and he made it literally. He told me this one night. He made it in hopes to actually get me out of the closet so that he can have a chance at dating me.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Wow.
Yeah, so the fourth tweet from this Twitter account was like the first night of summer. Like, the school ended on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
On a Wednesday, I mean, and this was now Thursday night. He tweets, like, attacking all of my friends. And then he tweets at me, at T-Lump is so far in the closet he's found Narnia or something. And that just pissed me off because I was like, I'm literally not, though. Like, I'm so over this.
Right.
So I quoted it and was like, I'm literally not in the closet, actually. Like, I'm completely out, actually, as of literally yesterday. So what do you want? What do you want from me? And then that got a lot of, like, retweets and faves. And so I was like, oh, well, everyone knows now.
Yeah.
And then a few weeks later, though, was when the what was it? Like, all love is equal? What?
Love is, fuck.
What was, like, there was a saying.
Slogan.
There was a slogan for it.
I mean, there's, like, love is love. There's, God, I don't know. For, like, the whole movement.
Yes, exactly. I don't know why I'm blinking so bad. Sorry. But basically, gay marriage was legalized.
Yeah.
The Mormon Church had to make a comment. So the Mormon Church, about a week after that, the next Sunday or the second to next Sunday, they sat everyone in their in the chapels, and this was like the full on, like, I literally want nothing to do with this place, good or bad. Mm-hmm. I want nothing to be here. Yeah. This is hell.
Yeah.
This is hell on earth.
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting there in this chapel full of everybody. Anyone 12 and up was in in the chapel. So no kids were in it, but just all the teenagers and adults. And, you know, they're sitting, I'm, like, in the direct middle of the chapel, I would say, a little to the right. I'm sitting next to my mom, and they're basically going around, and it was an open mic. Everyone was allowed to say anything they wanted about their thoughts and their feelings
about the bill that had just passed.
And about how now gay marriage is legal. And when I say
and your mom made you come to this?
Yeah. There is evil in good people.
Yeah.
This is what made that opinion. I'm sitting there for an hour. A lot of eyes are on me throughout the entire thing.
Because everybody knew at this point?
Not everybody, but the most part. A lot of people knew.
Okay.
We're becoming fully aware.
You had come completely out, though.
Yeah, I had come completely out. So not all the adults had gotten the word yet, but the ones that their kids knew, like, those adults were looking at me.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I was getting looks. The bishop was eyeing me.
It sounds like harassment to me.
It was awful. It was awful. They, I'm going to say one of the things that was said was this one woman to the left in the back stands up and she says, and everyone agreed with her, which really just was like, this is hell. This is hell on earth. Yeah. She said, you know, we can't really pray for the people. Oh, it's messed up. No, we can't pray for the people that are living these lives anymore, but we have to pray for the children that are allowed to be adopted by those monsters. Yeah. And everyone agreed.
Oh, God.
And it was just like... And so actually when that happened, because at this point, everyone's looking at me, I'm like in tears by this point. This was about like 20 minutes in. I literally punched my mom in the like elbow or an arm, and I'm just like, can I please leave?
Yeah.
Like, can I please go home? Because I had my car with me at this point.
Yeah.
Because I was 16. And she was like, no, you're not leaving. And I was just
Mom's come a long way, though.
She came a long way.
Okay.
Like, there's reasons to love my mother. My mother has come a long way.
Okay.
But she was like, you're not leaving. And so I kind of just then the rest I like had my head down, just like in literally in between my ears.
Yeah.
I was like, I want nothing. I don't want to be here. And later that day, me and her were in the car, and she was like, well, what were your thoughts on that? And I was like, how dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you do that to me?
Yeah.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Like, what is that going to do? You think that's going to change my mind?
Exactly. I was like, how dare you do that to me? And she goes, how dare I do what to you? And I was like, you made me sit through that. And she was like, I didn't make you sit. What do you mean I made you sit through that? And I was like, I was crying and asked you to leave, if I can leave, and you wouldn't let me leave. And she was like, yeah, it wasn't that serious. What were you crying for? I didn't realize you were crying. And that's when I was like, you mean to tell me, I forget her name, but I was like, Sister so-and-so just said we have to pray for the kids that are adopted into those monstrous relationships. Yeah. And my mom was like, that was never said. But that growing up.
Because you remember it, because that's what stings the most.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That was one thing, I guess growing up in my adult years, that caused a lot of the issues growing up.
Yeah, for sure.
Was
how do you not?
The constant, that never happened.
The invalidating.
The invalidation. Yeah. That was never said.
That's
no
the
one
worst.
ever.
I know how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah. So the constant.
Like gaslighting types.
Very gaslighting. Yeah. Very gaslighting. So it wasn't just, I realize I've gone on a very long tangent.
Oh, you're good.
It wasn't just being gay. It was how they handled literally every single layer of the onion below that. Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't just being told who I am is a sin. Mm-hmm. It's, oh, well, it's a sin, and we're also going to bully you for it, and we're also going to say we never bullied you, and we're also going to throw that right back in your face. It was just a never-ending, you're wrong for the way you were born. Yeah. Like, just my entire life. Right. So that definitely, once that happened, that summer, I got really rambunctious. Yeah. And
you're like, fuck it.
No, literally, I was like, fuck this. Yeah. To fast forward, basically, about 8 or 10 months after this, my mom will say I got kicked out. I'll say we equally agreed for me to leave. Yeah. I was actively trying to get out of my mom's house. Yeah. So I was just acting up. Yeah. In any way, shape, or form. Yeah. Just, I was sneaking out literally, if my mom ever hears this, I was sneaking out almost every single school night. Yeah. Like, almost every single night. And, like, I would go to the strip. Like, I would, like, go just, like, do things that I had no right as a 16 and then 17-year-old to be doing, just because I needed to get out. I was like, I'm over this. So literally when the words, I think you need to live with your dad, came out of her mouth, you were like, it was like a celebration. Yeah. It was like, I literally was so happy. Yeah. And then I moved in with my dad, and I have never been to church since. Yeah. That's a lie. I have gone to one of my friends' farewell and 2 homecomings. Mm-hmm. But for those like 50 minutes, and then I'm out. Right. The second homecoming, they like were like, oh, you should come to, and I was like, nope, it's all love for me. Yep. It is all love for me. Absolutely not. You will not catch me dead coming to your event. Sorry. Thank you though. Yeah. Like, right. No. So. I mean, that's a lot. That was a lot. I understand.
Apologize. No, don't apologize. Because my next question, like, I'm gonna ask, is there anything that you like still currently support or like or endorse about your last religion, or are you just like totally done now? Like, there's too much trauma, there's too much scars. Like,
I think now, once I would say was like 20 and 21, I was able to look back at it a lot differently. If you asked me that question a couple years ago, like, screw every single thing.
Yeah.
Like, they are just, if they ever listen to this or like look for my records, don't contact me. Just burn them, get rid of them. I'm cool with it. I am so cool with it. However, though, now I am able to I can love my Mormon cousins. I can love my mom, who's still Mormon and practices. She's come a very long way. I still have Mormon friends. And I do think that they have the fundamental values that they try to instill, which are love one another, do service upon your neighbor, and just be a good person. I agree with those. I completely agree with those, and I do understand the desire to raise kids Mormon, because it is a community. There is a community there. I do understand it.
Right.
Never would I ever, but I do understand it, and I am now also able to look at it although I will get triggered every now and then, and I'll go off.
Yeah.
For the most part, I can look at it and go, I disagree. It's all love, though. I disagree.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
And a lot of the tenets of all the religions around the world are fundamentally the same. And
yeah,
that's
exactly.
Why it's
I had that realization when I was 19 or 20. That kind of, I guess, helped actually my just calming down on the topic. Was I realized it's all the same.
Right. I came to that conclusion a while back, where I was
different names.
Yeah, and there's it gets lost in translation along the way. You know what I mean? There's language barriers. There's shit gets it's word of mouth for the majority of human history. It's just word of mouth. So along those lines, we talked about there's similarities. Yeah. How do you feel I don't know how to ask it. How do you feel Mormonism lines up in comparison with other religions? Do you feel it's more tolerant, less tolerant, more strict, less strict? Is it all the same to you? Do you notice anything unique about about being Mormon compared to other religions? Because Catholics can be pretty devout. You know what I mean? They can be pretty orthodox. There's a lot of religions that are super by the book.
Yeah.
So how do you feel they compare to being Mormon?
That's an interesting one.
I guess you only have your experience with being Mormon, so it's kind of hard.
But I also, though, I kind of do understand other religions, but I think that's part of just with the way I felt once I left. I kind of boxed them all in the same category.
That's what I did too.
Just Lord knows if this one did this to me,
right?
If this religion made me the way I was and am, Lord knows how others have their members and I just never fully, I guess, desired to dive into how that is.
Yeah.
Simply because I lived my own.
Yeah.
I don't need to.
My time.
I did my time, and I don't really care to. So, I mean, I know for the most part, most religions are all on that underlying basis of just be a good person, be a loving, good person. But I guess that's kind of all I can really say on it. I guess I would say I've met a lot more tolerant Catholics.
Really?
And a lot more tolerant Christians. A lot more tolerant, people of Jewish descent. Completely tolerant from a lot of my Jewish friends.
I was going to say, because we've done our time. Catholics, our history is bloody and horrible.
Yeah,
and
totally.
like everyone's like, let's just sweep it under the rug. You know, that book that I was recommending dives into some of that about what they did to women and like.
What was it called again?
The Immortality Key.
The Immortality Key.
Yes, by Bryant Murarescu. So I fucked up his name for sure, but I'll text it to you after.
Thanks.
And anyone else that wants to read it, you can message me and I'll send it to you. But yeah, so we've done our time, and we still do. You know what I mean? Because a lot of the same things that are not acceptable for you guys was not acceptable for us, like in terms, especially being gay, for sure.
Yeah, especially.
Yeah, but I will say that, you know, having been raised Catholic and like talking to other people, because like people will say like, oh, I go to church, oh, I do this or I do that, but like Mormonism is very strict. It's very like almost archaic. You know what I mean? It's like it hasn't caught up. I don't know why that is. I don't know why there's so many rules. Like, and a lot of people that I've talked to will say they're not rules. Like, you don't have to do it, but we choose to do it because we believe.
You don't have to do it, but you're shamed.
Yeah.
Literally shamed and looked at sideways if you don't do it. But don't worry, you don't have to.
Yeah, it's like coercion.
Exactly.
Almost. But yeah, that's just like it's not that like I said, I have friends that are Mormon that have really made it work and are incredible people.
I agree. I completely agree. And like, I know there are so many like literal professionals in our world, like modern scientists and doctors who are Mormon.
Yes.
And I don't want to discredit them by any means of the I don't want to discredit their works. I just simply don't agree.
Right.
And it's that simple.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where a lot of people just need to like realize that. And I guess the whole point of your show too. I just disagree. And it's okay to disagree.
Right.
If that's how you want to live your life every Sunday, go ahead, girl. I don't care.
Right.
Like, it's just not for me. And it's not going to be.
Right.
You know?
No, yeah, so. That's a great message because, you know, that's what I believe. That's why I do this. That's why I do this. So as far as where you're at now, would you say, like, how we kind of talked about how you'd say you're spiritual but not religious. So can you like talk about where you're at there now, and like did this experience with religion damage your relationship with God or like the idea of a creator, or did it enhance it, or where are you at now, you know?
I think for a while there, kind of how you were borderline atheist, I definitely think I wouldn't say that actually either, because that experience I mentioned earlier, that kind of told me like there's definitely something for me. This is just, again, my opinion.
Right.
How I feel.
Your experience.
There is definitely something. I don't know if it's a God, a creator, if it's literally the universe as a whole.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it's just all of these energies and souls working somewhere around us, above us, below, somewhere. Yeah. But I definitely do think that there is something, and I kind of always have. But over the years, I would say that, you know, like spirituality is like, for one, like your own with whatever you're spiritual towards, while religion is you're in a group that is spiritual towards that thing.
Yeah.
I have definitely just grown more and more and more spiritual. Although I would say I left like religion completely when I was 17, and I never really had a religious view again or any desire to be in a group where people have the same beliefs as me. I would just say over the years it has just grown stronger and stronger, that like it really is, again, in my opinion, me and whatever it is else.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
Doesn't matter what anyone else feels about it. Doesn't matter what anyone else is waking up in the middle of the night to.
Yeah.
It's me, my middle of the night wake ups, and, you know?
Right.
So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I will say, you know, and this conversation would be different if, you know, so like I said at the beginning, if someone Mormon was sitting here, if someone atheist was sitting here.
Absolutely.
We just happen to agree.
Yeah.
So, anyone who has a different perspective, you're more than welcome to message me and jump in. Like, I'm happy to have the conversation. So it's not to exclude, anybody. It's not to say that, like, this is the truth. This is just, we just both happen to believe in similar things.
Aspects,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if there's one thing that you could say to people, like, before we go, one word of advice or word of caution or, like, general message that you would leave people with, Mormon or not, regarding religion or spirituality, what would it be?
I would say because it's always valid to be upset for whatever reason you're upset for. But don't try to attack someone or devalue someone for all that they know. And what I mean by that is you can't necessarily get mad at someone if they were told their entire life that 2 + 2 = 5.
Right.
You can correct them and say, actually, it's 4. 2 + 2 actually equals 4. But don't get mad at them because they were told it was 5.
Right.
And I hope that kind of
that makes sense to me,
makes
sure.
sense in all aspects of life.
Yes.
You can't really blame someone or attack someone for knowing all that they know. Yeah. For knowing what they were taught.
They're just a product of their
They
environment.
are, exactly. Yeah. Everyone around you is a product of their environment. And so when, having tough conversations or coming out, that, like, my sister told me that when I was during all the turbulence of my coming out with my mom, my sister was like, you can't be mad at her. You can be upset and hurt, but you can't really blame her and be attacking her for responding the only way she knows how to respond. Yeah. For literally using every ounce of knowledge that she was told her entire life, trying to scrape through that knowledge to figure out how to respond to you. Right. That's not her fault. That's her parents and her life's fault. Yeah. So don't attack her. Don't take it out on mom. Just understand that that's literally all she knows.
Yeah. You gotta give people a chance to come around.
You gotta give people a chance to come around. Yeah. I think
that's the whole point of why I do this. You know what I mean? Because people are so impatient. People are so... It's a mess out there. I think it's going to get better. I just believe, I was listening to an episode of my own. I fucking hate listening to my voice. I can't say it. I go back, like, maybe in a year I'll listen to this. You know what I mean? But I was listening to one of my episodes with someone else, and I was definitely in a different place last year. I was very depressed, very low. I was very pessimistic. And since then, I've gone through some things that have, like, changed my perspective on, like, humans and, like, our potential. You know what I mean? And I was way more... I still consider myself a realist because I'm not, like, lost in this dream of what I want the world to be. Like, there's things that I want idealistically, but realistically, I know they may never come to fruition. But I do believe in giving people the benefit of the doubt and leading with love. You know what I mean? So I agree. Even it's so hard too because
so hard you just sometimes.
Tell them to fuck off. Yes, like, you're so stupid. You have no idea what you're talking about. You have no perspective. You have no empathy. Yes, but that doesn't do shit. It just it makes you them. Exactly. So it's so hard, but even I had a breakdown the other day in my car because I was like, I don't want to give out too many details, but I was going through an altercation with this person in my life. It was very important to me, who I love very much, and I just don't feel the love that I need from them and their role to me. And I was like, this is what being a human is being a good human is, in my perspective, is you have to give love to people who can't give love to you. Like, you just don't have an option. Like, otherwise the world crumbles and falls to shit. Yep. So you have to be the person that gives love to everybody. That's
Yep.
literally what Jesus was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So anybody, like,
Yeah.
that's a whole other conversation about religions, what they preach and what they practice.
Yup.
But all right. Well, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you guys. That wraps it up for this episode of the show. Once again, thank you all so much for your continuous support and love of my vision. If any of you are interested in continuing this conversation with Trent or I, you have my contact information. I will have his contact information available on my podcast Instagram. And as always, if any of you have any questions or concerns for me, please don't hesitate to reach out to me via Instagram, text, email, etc. I will see you all in 2 weeks. And as always, thank you all for talking elephants with me.